Welcome, everyone. I now call the July 15th, 2025 special City Council meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. At this point, we'll take a moment to take roll of the council members by position number. Please say here when the city clerk calls your name.
Councilmember Zorn?
Here.
Mayor Thompson?
Here.
Councilmember Alder?
Here.
Councilmember Kurd?
Here.
Councilmember Menke?
Here.
Councilmember Dodd?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Alcabra?
Here.
All present.
All right, first up on our agenda is meeting agenda approval. Does anybody have any changes? Seeing none, we're going to go to number 2, which is executive session and closed session pursuant to RCW 4230-144A, 30 minutes with action expected under agenda item 25129. It is now 5:31, and we will adjourn to closed session pursuant to RCW 4230-144A for labor negotiations. We will be in closed session for 30 minutes, and we will reconvene at 6:01. Action is expected under agenda item 25129. Welcome back. We're going to reconvene to regular session. We were in closed session and where we were discussing, and action is expected under agenda item 25129. And next up is public engagement opportunities. Don't miss summer nights. Get ready for 6 straight weeks of back-to-back Friday night concerts and movie nights. You can grab your lawn chairs, bring your friends, and don't miss the fun at summer nights. It's from July 11th to August 15th and 6 to 9 p.m. We've got Moonlight on Main, our summer night market series. It's going to continue every Saturday into September, right downtown, through September 13th. And we've got the Park at Bothell Landing Community Workshop. Join us to review images and a 3D model of design concepts for the Park at Bothell Landing. Your input during this workshop will help shape the final plan. And that's July 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. right here in the City Hall Council chambers. Next up, we have a proclamation. And this is a proclamation that everybody in here wishes that we did not have to give. It is honoring the life and memory of Police Officer Jonathan Paul Shoup. Whereas Police Officer Jonathan Paul Shoup faithfully served the Bothell community as a member of the Bothell Police Department, joining the department on June 3rd, 2019, following his honorable service in the United States Coast Guard. And whereas Officer Shoup was known for his integrity, compassion, dry sense of humor, and unwavering dedication to public service, he continually demonstrated professionalism, intelligence, and kindness in both his duties and his relationships with fellow officers and community members. And whereas on the evening of July 13th, 2020, Officer Shoup was tragically killed in the line of duty during a traffic stop, an event that deeply impacted the city of Bothell and left a lasting void in the hearts of his family, colleagues, and community. And whereas Officer Shoup's commitment to protecting and serving others was reflected in all aspects of his life, from his desire to be the best officer he could be, to his strong dedication to family, to his role as a beloved brother, fiancé, and son. And whereas his legacy is one of courage, sacrifice, and love, a life marked by his service to others, his ambition to live with purpose, and his deep care for the people and community around him. And whereas July 13th, 2025 marks the 5th anniversary of Officer Shoup's end of watch, and the Bothell Police Department Community Advisory Committee, on behalf of the residents of Bothell, wishes to honor and memorialize Officer Shoup's life, service, and enduring impact on the city he proudly served. Now, therefore, I, Mason Thompson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim July 13th through 19th, 2025 as a week of remembrance, and July 15th, 2025 is a day of recognition in the City of Bothell for Police Officer Jonathan Paul Shoup, and encourage all community members to honor his memory, support our law enforcement families, and continue striving toward a safe and compassionate community reflective of the values Officer Shoup held dear.
Well, thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members, City Manager Stannard, and members of my advisory committee. Thank you so much for taking the time to make this proclamation happen. Losing one of your own is exceptionally painful, and his loss has impacted us deeply. In some ways, it's hard to believe that it's been 5 years already since we lost him. In others, it feels like it was just yesterday. As mentioned, the memorial service on Sunday, the hours, days, weeks, and frankly years that followed his death were some of the most darkest times that many of us had to endure. However, we did not endure those alone. We received tremendous support from our friends, family, community members, as well as from numerous local, county, state, federal law enforcement partners, along with our local fire and EMS personnel who came to us in our time of need. Without that support, this journey would have been much more difficult. On behalf of the family and loved ones of Officer Shoup, as well as employees of the Bothell Police Department, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone for this proclamation and for your support.
It feels like there should be more, going straight from that to going on to the business that we have to do tonight, but that's how this works. Next up is public comment. The city has accepted public comments in writing as well as signups for those who wish to speak at tonight's meeting. Written comments submitted to the city clerk no later than 3 p.m. today were forwarded to all city council members and are part of the record. When the clerk calls your name, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please note that council will receive your input, but we do not engage in discussion of these topics. Staff will make note of items requiring follow-up. City Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. We do not have anybody signed up to speak this evening. However, if there's anybody in the audience that does wish to speak, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. For those of you in the virtual audience, if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function and I will panel you in. And we'll give them a moment. I do not have anybody.
Thank you. All right, next up is reports. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have 2 outside reports tonight. Before we go to that, I did want to just quickly follow up on one of the community events that you mentioned. So Moonlight on Main, as you mentioned, is a series that will be going on every Saturday night throughout the summer. I was at this week's and talked to the people in charge of it, and they did make sure to highlight for me that this upcoming Saturday is one not to miss. There's a theme every week, as I believe you're familiar. The theme this week is going to be Laugh Out Loud, which is something we probably all need in the world right now. There's 7 confirmed comedians performing, plus some other surprises. There's 9 vendors participating, including artists, and some food vendors, so samosas and cake. So lots of reasons to turn out and enjoy the good weather on Main Street this Saturday night. With that, our first presentation tonight is coming to us from Connections Health Solutions. They're going to make their way up tonight. So we are joined tonight by 2 representatives from Connections Health. Celeste Lippy, who is the Regional Senior Vice President of Clinical Services for a few locations on the West Coast, and then also Dr. Kyle Jasper, who's the Medical Director here in the Kirkland location. And again, for context, the representatives of Racer, so Councilmember Aldrich and I were able to hear a presentation from these 2 at the Racer Principals Assembly meeting recently, and when Councilmember Aldrich shared that report, we were eager to have them join us tonight. So thank you for being able to come so quickly within a month and before our recess, and we look forward to hearing from you. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Great, thank you for having us and an opportunity to provide an update. It's been an exciting year for us. We've been open almost August 10th will be our year. So super excited to be able to share what our last year has looked like for us. So thank you for having us. Just a reminder, we are open 24/7. We serve adults right now. We were awarded the Levy Ready Award, so we will start serving youth in our urgent care walk-in in probably the next 60 days as we finalize our contract with King County to be able to also serve youth going forward. We're access for all. There's no appointments and no referrals required, and we serve all populations. So no one has to have insurance. They can come, and we serve everyone in the community. Our services include our urgent care walk-in, our 23-hour observation, our crisis stabilization unit, that's again is our 16-bed voluntary unit. We have an ENT or an involuntary unit for anyone that's gone through the ITA or the involuntary treatment process. That is also a 16-bed unit. And again, just super excited that we've been open almost a year. This is just a description or an overview again of the services we provide. Our urgent care is open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, that anyone can walk into the community that's in a psychiatric need for behavioral health services or an urgent care walk-in. We provide 23-hour observation. That is our therapeutic chair setting where someone can be in the observation area for 23 hours. During that time, we make a decision if someone needs additional services or we're able to get them back into the community with follow-up appointments or wraparound services. Our crisis stabilization unit is usually around 5 days length of stay, and that gives the ability for us to have someone that's needing longer than the 23 hours but not going on into a traditional inpatient setting. We're able to stabilize them onto that unit. And then again, ENT, that's our involuntary unit. We have court on site, and we're able to support the patients not having to leave our facility during that process. And then we do post-crisis follow-up. We have a dedicated nurse that when someone leaves our facility, that we're able to do an outreach call and make sure they're getting connected in the community. One of our key areas of focus is our first responders. Our goal is to get everyone back into the community, not having long wait times to be able to bring someone to us. Our goal is to be under 10 minutes. So if a first responder comes, that can be EMS, law enforcement, our RACER teams, the mobile crisis teams. Our goal is to get them in and out within the 10 minutes so that they're back in the community and providing services that are needed in the community. And this is where we are. This is our overall numbers. We've almost served 4,600 different patients coming through. We've had over 1,400 law enforcement or first responder referrals. Our time right now is at 8 minutes for our drop-off time. We usually, on average, have someone in our observation unit for about 17 hours, so not everyone stays the full 24 hours. And our average length of stay, again, in our CSU unit is 5 days. The outlet on the right just shows you the volume of where the first responders or law enforcement referrals are coming from. We're very close to Kirkland, actually, they're down the street from us, but you can see on here we have Bellevue, Seattle, Redmond, and Bothell are also dropping off to us. So we just wanted to give an update. Super excited that we're hitting our year, and we're open if there's any questions.
Councilmember Kurt.
Thank you. Thanks for coming to give a presentation, and congratulations on your first year. This is something that's been kind of a long time coming for our community, so I'm really grateful for the services that you're providing for us and our neighbors. I have a couple of questions about Connections and its role in collaboration with RACER. First is some of the metrics that we see and get published are about how many beds are in use. And I've looked at those metrics, and I'm kind of wondering if seeing either a low percentage of in-use or a high percentage of in-use space and capacity at Connections in Kirkland is can be kind of misconstrued, or that's not a great metric to use to characterize the success of the program and the facility. So I guess it's not really a question. It's more of a maybe cautionary tale of knowing that when decision makers and when community members see maybe maybe a lower percentage of use, it's not a bad thing. It just means that the facility is providing services for the people who need it, and those are on a kind of case-by-case basis. And as Racer identifies people, and as the coordinating agencies respond. So, yeah, I would say the metrics that get shared, at least on my end, kind of away from some of the bodies that regularly interact with human services, the audience should be kind of carefully thought about before publishing unqualified data. So the other thing is I've heard really great things about the services that Connections has provided, and I'm really grateful that we have a place to go now. That's part of the continuum of care that our community has needed for so long. But I'm also hearing stories of folks who have had interactions and are looking to understand more about Connections as an organization and the decision making and the kind of interaction between Connections and the wider, the levy and Racer. So are there like regular community sessions, or is it mainly your outreaches to city councils like ours and to boards? What is your kind of regular interaction with the group?
With our key community stakeholders, really good question. So to kind of go from what the first part of your on our utilization, I appreciate that feedback. I think we really have an opportunity to be the safety net for the community for easy access to care. I think the model is new in the community, and we're working through to really make sure that everyone understands what we can provide and the care that we can provide. So I think that's a continued education and opportunity for the community to understand what services we provide. Interacting with key stakeholders, we interact with multiple key stakeholders in the community. We interact with our law enforcement partners on a regular basis. We meet with their chiefs or we meet with their lieutenants to talk about opportunities. We meet with Racer. We outreach the crisis mobile teams. We interact with Evergreen as they are the closest facility to us on their emergency room on a monthly basis. So we are actively involved in the community, outreaching them and providing opportunities for them to better understand what resources we can and will be for them. So lots of outreach, and we're really trying to make sure everyone can really understand what the opportunity we do have here to really expand these services and go forward in a community that everyone envisioned this to be.
That's great. It's really encouraging to hear that you have so many points of contact with folks from different points along the continuum. And one of the things that I just encourage would be those exit interviews that you mentioned seem really critical points of data about the experience that folks that are going through and have the firsthand experience at Connections. And so hopefully you're able to incorporate that feedback that you get from them into the program as well.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Alders.
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually my second opportunity to hear this presentation, but I'm very glad that you're here. Thank you. And I'm grateful for Councilmember Curd bringing up the outreach pieces. I always think about how the public learns about new information, and word of mouth is fantastic, and the community partners work is very important. But I'm wondering, have you I've seen news stories, but have you produced a information video about the location that can be shared on social media or on, news sites, so that people can really get an introduction to and an understanding of what you do and why you're doing it here in the community?
I mean, we are interacting with our communication team and working on social media and the opportunities for the word to get out and understand what we do. To do an exact media like a tour, we have a virtual tour that we provide often too, so that we can go in front of large groups as well. But I think the video idea is a great idea to kind of show it. Our model is different with 23-hour observations. And in therapeutic chair setting, I think people need to see it and understand it to see what it's really about. So I think it's a great idea to maybe do like a video push that we could do in the community. But we are very interactive with social media right now.
Oh yeah, I've seen your social media. It looks good. But there's I think that public education component is really important. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Mankey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I just had one question. I believe it was one slide prior to this one, if you wouldn't mind just jumping back. Perfect. The top 5 law enforcement referrals, I'm curious, does this include like fire departments as well? Does it include when Racer is working with those agencies? Is there any stats on, does Evergreen or Overlake ever send anybody to your facility? I'm curious about those things.
No, really great question. And I can tell you in the last year, us refining our data is one of the big themes of area of focus that we've had with King County as well. Because not all law enforcement transport, and so some of it is EMS is in the field. The handoff came, for an example, from Bothell, right? They were saying, can you guys send to, this location? We do get the numbers from how many come referrals from facilities, from emergency rooms, from Racer, from the crisis mobile teams, like if sound drops off. So we do have it. We just focus some on the law enforcement in this presentation, but we do break it down by that. And we're working really hard to refine our data to show really it's different than where it started in the field versus who transported. And so we're really trying to go backwards on that and really get an understanding where our referrals are coming from in the community.
Okay, great. If you have the other data, I'd love to see it if you wouldn't mind just following up afterwards.
Yeah, we'll get that to you.
Great, thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you again. So as we make a presentation switch here for a moment, Council, I'll give a little bit of an introduction as Amy pulls up the slides. So the second presentation is from Snohomish County staff related to the Snohomish County Urban Growth Area expansion. The staff are joining us this evening to provide a briefing and explain the expansion of the Southwest Urban Growth Area, and also kind of put that in geographic context. Frank Slesser, the senior planner with the county, is here with us tonight, as well as Steve Toy, who's a principal county demographer, is waiting in the wings in case there's any questions for him to answer and to provide details. So just like Bothell, last December, the county council adopted their comprehensive plan update to address housing and employment growth targets, and with it, an ordinance expanding the Southwest Urban Growth Area by 378 acres. Tonight, we will be hearing from them. They're presenting to City Council and seeking feedback on formally including this expanded urban growth area into Bothell's municipal urban growth area. So they're two different things. Hopefully tonight clarifies that, while I'm not somebody who pronounces acronyms very often, too long in government to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and embrace MUGA as the municipal urban growth area. Our community development director, Jason Greenspan, has been following along with this and has previously provided comments to the county about the urban growth area expansion on Bothell's behalf back in October of 2023, and that is included in your packet tonight on pages 16 to 18. If you have any questions. We've also highlighted some issues in the staff report for City Council to consider, like the provision of urban services, infrastructure, zoning, active projects, and the environment that could help inform Council's feedback. The county is consulting tonight and seeking your support for including the area in Bothell's MUGA prior to moving forward with a discussion with two groups that are part of Snohomish County tomorrow. There's a staff committee and there's an elected officials committee. Jason Greenspan is our representative on the staff committee, and Councilmember Dodd is the representative on the elected committee. Again, things are moving forward for discussion potentially as early as September, so we really wanted to get some information to the full council. There's nothing formal that you have to do tonight. There's no formal determination or action being asked, but again, the county is looking for feedback, and we do have some time while we'll be on recess. You can always direct your staff to do some work. We will be here. So if there's anything that we can do in follow-up or in coordination, we'll certainly be taking notes as well. And as you can see, Jason is also here in the audience in case you have any questions for him. All that being said, I think the PowerPoint is ready to go. So this was a long enough introduction. I'm going to turn things over to Frank to lead you through the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Am I speaking loud enough into the microphone? Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the council. My name is Frank Slesser. I'm a senior planner with Snohomish County Planning and Development Services. And I'm joined in the audience here is Stephen Toy, a principal demographer with Snohomish County Planning and Development Services, just in case to be available to back me up to answer questions. Thank you very much for allowing us the time on the agenda this evening to speak. I'd like to speak to the City Council, seek feedback and possible support for an amendment to the Bothell Municipal Urban Growth Area, or MUGA, to include an area that was recently added to the Southwest County Urban Growth Area as part of the 2024 update of Snohomish County's comprehensive plan. To outline the purpose of the presentation, I will provide a brief background on the Southwest Urban Growth Area expansion, explanation of the MUGA amendment process. I will have an opportunity here and understand City Council feedback and provide an outline of possible next steps. The county recently completed the 2024 update of our Growth Management Act Comprehensive Plan, which included a review of the Comprehensive Plan future land use map, zoning and regulations, and a review of the urban growth area boundary to accommodate the projected growth to 2044. This was a major undertaking with the large amount of growth to plan for. The county needed to overcome a deficit of roughly 30,000 population capacity in the unincorporated Southwest UGA. Every option for increasing capacity where it could be supported by planned infrastructure, investments, and services was utilized. First, reasonable measures to accommodate growth within the existing UGA were considered prior to consideration of UGA expansion. Some of the highlights, we adopted a new urban core sub-area plan that covers the area around the planned light rail stations between north of Linwood and south of Everett. 983 acres in the vicinity of the planned light rail stations were designated with the new light rail communities designation. There is new zoning being developed to implement that that's expected to support high-density mixed-use development. With inclusionary zoning provisions to support affordability for low and very low income households. Also, 730 acres along bus rapid transit routes within the urban core sub-area that connect to the light rail station areas were redesignated and rezoned to a new mixed-use corridor zone, providing more opportunities for mixed uses in those transit corridors and incorporating the first inclusionary zoning requirements for unincorporated Snohomish County, which are now in effect. Also, nearly 2,300 acres of single-family neighborhoods along local bus routes throughout the unincorporated Southwest UGA, including the northwest part of the Bothell MUGA, were redesignated to urban medium-density residential. That's a designation that can provide housing opportunities for moderate income families and households. It's most commonly developed with small lot, single family, or townhouse development. Can also allow multifamily projects depending on the underlying zoning that's applied. The 2024 update also included adoption of an expansion of the Southwest Urban Growth Area northeast of Bothell, around the intersection of State Route 524 or Maltby Road and 43rd Avenue Southeast. The area is approximately 378 acres. A major portion of it designated urban medium density residential with the low density multiple residential zoning. A small area south of State Route 524 was designated urban low density residential with our 7200 zoning. And 2 public institutional properties are in the area, including the Ruby Bridges Elementary School at the east part of the expansion area. The expansion was adopted in December 2024. There were no appeals of the UGA expansion during the 60-day appeal period, and it went into effect in April 2025. The UGA expansion provided an estimated additional capacity of 821 housing units. Without this capacity, the county would have a deficit for moderate income housing relative to the Commerce housing targets by income band for the unincorporated county. I want to acknowledge that the City of Bothell Community Development provided comments opposing the UGA expansion during the comment period on the draft environmental impact statement and ahead of the Snohomish County Planning Commission hearing in the fall of 2023. Those comments are summarized briefly on this slide. They were also included in the materials with the agenda tonight. These comments were shared with the County Planning Commission for their hearing and also with the County Council for their consideration. They are reflected in the findings in the ordinance adopting the UGA expansion, and a response was included in the final environmental impact statement. Note that there are 9 cities in the Southwest UGA, and consultation on potential UGA amendments was handled through interjurisdictional and public forums, starting with scoping in 2021, continuing with briefings at Snohomish County Tomorrow in 2022, and opportunities to provide testimony during public hearings at Planning Commission in 2023 and County Council in 2024. Ultimately, the County Council made the finding that this UGA expansion was necessary to serve the public interest. So I'd like to now move on to talking about the policies regarding MUGA, MUGAs and MUGA amendments. So the countywide planning policies for Snohomish County identified that the purpose of municipal urban growth areas, or MUGAs, in the Southwest UGA is to indicate those areas that are eligible for potential future annexation by specific cities. Policy DP 22 speaks to how the cities and county should resolve gaps in the MUGAs, which are either between MUGAs or in new UGA expansion areas. Policy DP 22, Section B, specifically speaks to UGA expansion areas and directs the county to consult individually with affected cities to seek agreement on amendments to the MUGA boundaries. And this presentation this evening is part of that process. DP 22D then directs that if we agree to an amendment, we can go to Snohomish County Tomorrow for a recommendation and then to the County Council to amend the MUGA map in the countywide planning policies. Now, the county has adopted a MUGA map in its own comprehensive plan, showing the UGA expansion area as the proposed Bothell MUGA. I'll just zoom in on this real fast. So you can see this is in our county comprehensive plan. And the area with the cross hatches represent the area that is proposed Bothell MUGA, adjacent to the Bothell MUGA along most of its boundary, also adjacent to the Mill Creek MUGA to the north. There's a very small gap in the MUGA that's in the western, northern western area there. That's it represents essentially it's the play fields for some North Shore School District schools that are in the Mill Creek MUGA. This is an aerial, maybe helpful for people. You can see the proposed Bothell MUGA in the center, and it's pretty clear that in that area currently is rural residential in character, similar to the areas to the east, and the areas to the west and to the north and to the south. There's definitely development right up to the area along in most of that area. The county planning rationale for why it may make sense to include this area in the Bothell MUGA. It has a proximity to the Bothell community. Being in the Bothell MUGA may support a more logical service area, since the access to much of that area would likely come through the existing Bothell MUGA. Extension of sewer infrastructure also would likely come through the Bothell MUGA. It would avoid creating an irregular MUGA boundary that would be created if a different jurisdiction were to take this into their municipal urban growth area. It would avoid creation of an impractical MUGA boundary to support future annexation or incorporation. And the capacity in this UGA expansion area is necessary to accommodate the unincorporated Bothell-Muga population and housing targets adopted in the county's 2024 plan. There is zero surplus capacity in the unincorporated Bothell-Muga that includes the UGA expansion, and there would be a shortfall in the unincorporated Bothell-Muga if the UGA expansion area is not included as part of the Bothell-Muga. The county comprehensive plan has already indicated the proposed addition of this area to the Bothell-Muga. If the city of Bothell agrees, then it would be possible to move forward through the Snohomish County process, Snohomish County Tomorrow process, and to the county council to amend the MUGA map in this area. Potential next steps. First, this evening, we're here to listen to city council feedback and answer questions. We hope to continue dialogue with Bothell city staff over the next couple months based on city council direction. Potentially, we could go to Snohomish County Tomorrow Planning Advisory Committee in the fall, pending Bothell support. Potential Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee and County Council action could happen by year end in that case. This process is proposed to run concurrent with the growth target reconciliation process in Snohomish County to update the growth targets and the countywide planning policies to be consistent with the plans that were adopted by all the jurisdictions in the county as part of the 2024 periodic update. And this lays out those same steps in the form of a table with some of the specific meeting dates that could be possible. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I want to thank you again for your time this evening, and I'm now happy to answer questions and listen to feedback.
Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Slesser. And I want to be clear that this feedback is holistic. It is not about your presentation in particular. I enjoy my time on Snohomish County Tomorrow, and I'd like to think I've been consistent about sharing concerns when we grow in ways that are not environmentally friendly. And our city has been pretty clear in both our 2040 vision, our comprehensive plan, that we don't want more sprawl. We would really like to see, as per our Director Greenspan's comments in 2023, that we grow denser within the cities, within the UGA. I think that every city in Snohomish County's UGA could do a little more to grow where it is and to not sprawl out. I have really deep concerns about this expansion, and I don't support our city putting it in our MUGA. Fun fact about me, I live in an area that used to be unincorporated Snohomish County. It was added to the city in 1993. I was 5. I'm now 37. We're still catching up on sidewalks. I now, for the first time, live in Bothell on a street with sewer. It took 32 years. It is a huge leap to get from those unincorporated areas to a part of the city that has the same benefits that some of my fellow council members enjoy further into the city, further into the King County part. I don't want us to set up more neighborhoods like that. We also are struggling with, I think, over 20 years now of only being able to raise our city's part of property taxes 1% every year. That does not keep up with the cost of paying our workers a living wage and certainly not maintaining enough pavement to drive to Spokane and back. It really gives me concern to take on more financial burdens when I don't feel that we've been able to work within the measures given to us to consistently have to fund everything that we need to fund as a city. The other thing I want to say is this area is very poorly served by transit. I believe a big part of it is not even part of Community Transit's Transportation Benefit District. It's due for a vote on that again, but gosh, making it more dense without that infrastructure gives me a lot of concern. And what I hear from our school board and from parents in those schools is that the schools are already deeply overtaxed. More density means more students. And for whatever reason, our school district also doesn't have a great way to anticipate growth. They can't really build until it's already needed. And that creates a huge problem for people in those northern schools. It bothers me, and again, not at you, it bothers me that Director Greenspan's comments weren't maybe taken more into account when the county council was considering this. I almost don't know, I wonder if anyone else on our council would maybe want to write a letter kind of stating how we feel about this and talking to the county council maybe more formally, because it just feels like we were ignored and now we're being asked to accept it anyway. And I really can't support it. So I appreciate you coming here, and I just hope we can have more collaborative conversations about this. I think there's a lot of cool solutions. I know we have shown interest in doing our part on the growth, but I don't think sprawl is the way to do it. Thank you.
Councilmember Curd.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak with us, Senior Planner Slusser. I appreciate the data that you've laid out, but it's really hard to overestimate how outraged I am at this, especially after our county council member came to talk to us on October 1st, and I stated my intense opposition to this, and it still went through. So it was on the record that we were opposed, and thank you for including that in your findings. I would echo everything that Councilmember Dodd stated too, and just say that nature doesn't know a straight boundary line when we make it. The line that we have in our city between King and Snohomish counties is purely socioeconomic. It's not defined by nature. And making a UGA boundary straight just because it needs to look pretty on a map means that we're still compromising 800 acres of rural areas that's never going to be rural in Washington again. And so it's frankly outrageous that we have to defend against sprawl on our doorstep. And I think Snohomish County cities can step up and tackle the moment. We have some of the most progressive housing policy in the state of Washington now because we're willing to take that on and we see what it looks like when sprawl is on the corner. And I think that if other cities saw that too, maybe they would start looking at their own policies of exclusion and looking at how we can balance housing needs in Snohomish County without consuming more rural lands and working lands that we will never get back. So I really intensely opposed to this and opposed to adding it to our MUGA, and I would be willing to write a letter as well, as Councilmember Dodd stated.
Councilmember Alders.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would be willing to maybe be part of a subcommittee to write that letter. That's generally how council has come together on projects like this. I would defer to Councilmember Menke and your thoughts since you also live in Snohomish County.
Councilmember Menke.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation tonight. I do live a stone's throw from here in the northeast corner of our city. Question for you about planning policies. You stated, I think, that the Bothell portion of the Southwest MUGA is lacking housing. Is that correct, or is it just it could go anywhere in the Southwest portion?
So capacity is tight in both in the unincorporated Bothell MUGA, but also in the entire Southwest UGA. So, or just unincorporated county as a whole. So the moderate income band is the area where we are the tightest on capacity. That's the area. It's 80% to 120% of HUD area median income. We have a surplus of 433 housing units in that income band. Following the Commerce methodology, our urban medium and our urban high density residential areas are the main areas that serve that moderate income. Low income is most served by our new designations in the areas in the urban core sub area, because that's where we would expect to get more mid-rise or higher buildings. And a large portion of our urban area is urban low-density residential, which is expected to serve 120% or greater, as similar to the rural area. So we're tight on capacity in the Bothell MUGA because we literally have zero surplus for housing capacity in general, but also the county unincorporated area as a whole is tight on that medium density portion of this large portion of this UGA expansion is to serve that moderate income. We've also taken measures that all throughout the unincorporated, particularly the southwest UGA, but measures to create more opportunities for medium density. Doesn't all show up in the methodology of commerce to how we account for that, but with rezoning to urban medium to support townhouse development along almost every local bus route in the southwest UGA. Unfortunately, the Bothell-Muga is only half within the community transit public transportation benefit area, so we didn't look to increase densities in the eastern half of the unincorporated Bothell-Muga for that very reason, because there's no opportunity for transit service, and the roads, the traffic in that area is already very heavy. But creating the opportunity for automobile-oriented development at the edge was the option to be able to accommodate our growth target.
I'm curious, rather than expand as proposed, have you looked at adjusting the line between the Bothell and the Mill Creek Mugas to increase capacity within the Bothell side, and then take the land that's along Bothell Highway all the way up into Mill Creek, which is large? There's some very, very large lots, very, very large undeveloped capacity there on bus rapid transit corridor, and upzoning that to high density to accommodate the growth there. So you're essentially trading what's currently in Mill Creek, adding those numbers to Bothell, and then creating more of a deficit in the Mill Creek Muga, which has the capacity to absorb those things in a very high dense area along a transit corridor with 10-minute bus service.
So a few thoughts on that. Mill Creek has also either zero or very limited surplus housing capacity as well, the unincorporated portion. Also, the southeast part of the Mill Creek Muga also is not within the community transit district either. Adjusting the boundary between those areas would be a conversation for Bothell and Mill Creek to have, and the county would if there was agreement between those two cities, then the county would consider that at that time. But that would be something for Mill Creek and Bothell to consider, but I would not think that it would address the issue. There are other ways that there are other areas of where there is other ways to think about how to accommodate growth, but our goal was to accommodate as close to the adopted initial targets in each of the sub-areas as possible, and the proposal that we came up with accomplished that, as well as thinking about the composite capacity of the UGA. And this urban growth area expansion, plus a very small one in the Monroe UGA, helped us achieve the capacity that we needed to accommodate our growth with a very small safety factor. Switching over to talking about population capacity, the countywide planning policies allow up to a 15% sizing safety factor for UGAs. We have just over 6%, so that's a very small safety factor if to account for possible differences in accelerations of housing development in the future. So these UGA expansions were taken as to address local capacity needs, as well as UGA-wide capacity needs, as well as county-wide composite UGA capacity needs.
From what I'm hearing, it sounds like it wasn't considered moving that line. It's up to us cities to do that. I think that's something that's worth looking into, if we can prevent more urban sprawl by moving this imaginary line drawn on a map and then upzoning those areas that are currently largely vacant as you drive and approach the city of Mill Creek. I think that is a much more viable, much more environmentally friendly, much more likely that people will take that high capacity transit into Canyon Park and then connect to 405 from there, or connect up to I-5 at one of those park and ride areas. I think that's a much more sustainable way to do it rather than continue sprawl in this area. And I'm not against, additional development, but additional development when I don't think it's necessarily needed given vacancies on major arterials, highways with rapid transit. I think that's a much better option. And I can tell you from driving this section of the road very frequently that this is already getting congested, and to add more here with no bus service, there's zero bus service. I have to go down to Canyon Park in order to catch a bus, which is not a short distance. So I don't think this is the right way to go about it. I am also not in favor with the other council members that they've spoken. And I'd like to see us try to do this a little bit different.
Councilmember Zons?
Thank you. I feel like we're grilling you here, so I apologize for that. It was a great presentation, and I can appreciate the inclinations that led Snohomish County Council to tilt this way, but all my council members made very valid points, and I hadn't even considered along 527, which is a great plan for building up the density numbers that we're supposed to be aiming for. The only other caveat that I have to add to some great ideas that weren't even not necessarily on my radar already is that if that land was just, I don't know, let's just pretend it was just all stripped and it was just scrub grass on there and we weren't concerned about environmental impact. I talked to the voters on the Bothell Incorporated side in that area, and the volume of traffic that has been created with the county side is a huge frustration for the people who already live there. And then I also can appreciate that there's going to be a cost that the city of Bothell is going to have to incur on how to manage that traffic for that area. And I'm not sure that we've got enough fires that we're trying to put out right now that's a cost and a concern that will be able to address in a timely fashion. So if in the interest of being timely, I would really encourage moving the growth along 527 in the unincorporated county part and see if we can leave the neighbors a little less harried and live with life kind of on a level, stable feeling in the northeast corner, and really take advantage of the infrastructure and the support along 527 there. That's my 2 bits on that.
Frank, first, thanks for coming tonight. We know that you're a messenger presenting somebody else's policy decision, and we appreciate you being here very much. Now, that being said, if you expand a boundary when it gets uncomfortable, what you have is something completely other than a boundary. You mentioned that we're tight on capacity in the Bothell-Muga because of income bans, correct?
It's tight both in terms of housing capacity. Generally, there's zero additional capacity for housing.
When you say there's zero additional capacity for housing, what do you mean? That we can't change zoning and create more capacity?
So we've just finished upzoning 2,300 acres of single-family neighborhoods to urban medium. Every arterial that has bus rapid transit is already accounted for with higher density zoning if it's unincorporated. Urban center along 527 within the Bothell portion, a mix of urban center and commercial and industrial zoning along the unincorporated portion in the Mill Creek Muga. Any area that is served by transit that had any potential for capacity, we tried to upzone as part of our 2024 update. The areas that we did not is because they are not served by transit and potentially not possible to be served by transit as long as they are unincorporated and outside of the community transit's area, or if they're served by roads that are not passable by bus. By 2044, we would expect to have used up our capacity to accommodate the growth that we're planning to within the Bothell and the Mill Creek area. There's in terms of the income bands, it's the moderate income is the one that we're the tightest on. We do have larger surpluses of capacity for higher income above 120 in other areas, but not in the Bothell or the Mill Creek.
So if
And
we,
also for the low income, and that's more in the area around the light rail station.
so if we upzoned the Bothell Muga presumably more than you already have, like is that part of that isn't served by transit, or did that get upzoned in the most recent comp plan?
Yeah, so we upzoned areas along Filbert Road.
Okay.
Where the new bus route was put in after the Linwood light rail station opened. And we also upzoned along where the bus runs, the route from Cannon Park to the Linwood
Okay.
light rail station. Also areas.
But the rest of the Muga was untouched?
The area to the east, so the area east of Everett, Bothell Everett Highway is the area that we didn't up-designate areas where there was no possibility for transit service. But we did consider to do infill in existing neighborhoods that are already developed, in other words, because we need to focus our transportation investments primarily in to get traffic to light rail stations. But we do also have a project that is planned for the UGA expansion area to improve 43rd Avenue Southeast.
Okay, so did we not upzone that portion of the Bothell Muga because it doesn't have transit, or because we didn't, like, we needed to hit the moderate income band? Because I've heard both and I'm a little confused.
No, we looked at every opportunity to increase capacity for all income bands, but
Okay. So it wasn't a, like, we can't upzone this or it might get, like, too affordable problem?
not at all. It
Okay.
was because of the service for transportation and for other
Okay.
services.
The piece of that I would push back on is if you don't want to develop or, upzone existing areas because there's not transit service, all we're doing right now is with this expansion is creating a whole new place that is now more developed that doesn't have transit service. Real quick, just for community members listening, I'm going to read the feedback, or part of the feedback that Director Greenspan sent in a couple of years ago, because I think it really summarizes what I think really well. It is noted that the UGA expansion shown in both Action Alternatives 2 and 3 seems to reinforce decentralized sprawling land use patterns at the edges of Bothell's existing Muga that do not robustly support multimodal transportation choices. It is not immediately clear why more concentrated, focused, higher density land use designations have not been considered within the Muga to more readily achieve regional housing and employment goals. This is especially the case since important natural resources, including woodlands and riparian areas, are present within the proposed Muga expansion for Bothell. Absent a feasible action alternative that simultaneously respects existing UGA limits and accommodates projected housing and employment growth through 2024 or 2044, the city finds it difficult to understand the planning rationale or support either DIS action alternative. And I would just like to compliment 2 years ago, Jason, because, good job. I agree with that all, and you did bring that up in your presentation and do a brief summary of it. I appreciate that. So has the county council already deemed it in the public interest to override that recommendation?
The UGA has already been expanded.
So the UGA has already been expanded.
Yes.
And now it's just a question of if we're eventually going to have to deal with the consequences by putting it on our Muga.
Or if a different jurisdiction would
Okay.
be providing the services for that area. But until it's annexed, it's still unincorporated either way.
Okay. Like in our comp plan, we have to come up with a growth plan that works within our boundaries. We don't have the option of pushing extra sprawl off on different jurisdictions. And it's frustrating to me that Snohomish County went through an entire comp plan process without being able to do the same thing, and that we have to have this conversation. We have upzoned our lower density areas. We would prefer the county do the same and not sprawl out, because right now those areas aren't served by transit. But if we assume that that will never be the case by not upzoning. All we're doing is creating more problem, and we're bypassing the eventual solution of there being enough people there to be served by transit. It gets us farther from a solution that we want to see with transportation, not closer to it. Could you bring up the aerial view again on the presentation? This is interesting to me. If we look at this and we look at the developed area inside the UGA and the undeveloped area outside of the UGA, it's pretty stark in terms of vegetation, in terms of natural area. And there are still roads outside the UGA. There's still housing development out there, but that's what we're sacrificing. And we're essentially just paving paradise to put up a parking lot and put up more decentralized sprawl that keeps making all of our problems worse. And I want to make our problems better, not worse. Like, one of the biggest challenges we face as a city is how to retrofit all of this decentralized autocentric sprawl. And it's a hard problem. And we have great people working really hard on it. And I just don't want to have to do more of it. Like, I'd prefer we stop making the problem worse and start making the problem better. And this just looks to me like we're just making the problem worse. And I don't want it in Armuga. So, again, thank you for coming. I know my message was harsh, but it's not directed at you. And hopefully you can take that feedback back. And I, too, would be happy to write a letter, to make a phone call, to communicate our position on this that I think I heard pretty unanimously. Did you not talk?
No, but it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, there was nothing that was said that I can
Yeah.
reiterate. The only question after you were done is what are I know you mentioned next steps and the timelines, but like you heard a pretty unanimous voice. I didn't say anything, but I agree with everything that was said. What's the impact? What's the consequences? Like, what's going to happen next?
So, the county staff will need to consider what other possible paths there are. It is adjacent to the Mill Creek Muga, so there are other options to consider. Ideally, we don't want to create a gap, but as if the county has proposed it as the Bothell Muga, it would remain a gap until it's claimed by a city. And there would be a need to reconcile the growth targets. So I am hoping there is still the opportunity for us to continue a conversation with Bothell City staff so that if Bothell is not interested, that at least Bothell would be aware of what will be the disposition for that area. But it is in the UGA. It's the progress, the pace of annexation within the Southwest UGA is such that there's fairly accepted that the county will continue to be the service provider for at least for the several years into the future, much like the rest of the unincorporated Southwest UGA.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, Frank, thank you again for coming. And some of what I was hearing, I think, is also it's direction for Bothell staff. So we will do some follow-up work and be in touch. And you mentioned wanting to continue to be in communication with the Bothell team, and we'll absolutely be doing that. So thank you very much for being here tonight. And City Council, I do want to flag a couple of thoughts in hearing this. There was the idea floated of which there seems to be pretty good concurrence of perhaps forming a subcommittee to draft a letter. The council could authorize that subcommittee to send the letter, or we can bring that back first meeting of September. It'll come quickly. It doesn't feel like it. And so that's something that you can discuss now, or if you would like to take it up under projected agenda discussion, we'll make sure that it doesn't pass by. And also over at the table against the windows, one of the thoughts that we had too is if there's any interest, and maybe this is something the subcommittee could take on, but proposing a joint meeting with the Mill Creek City Council and or figuring out how to do some joint meetings with the Snohomish County Council as well. That's certainly an option. But if that would be useful to talk about the broader conversation, doesn't have to be immediate, but sometime in the future we could certainly pose that question to Mill Creek staff. But more than anything, just wanted to make sure we didn't lose the thread on if a subcommittee of 3 makes sense, or if this is something you all want to pick up together in September.
I just wanted to propose that we probably, for my colleagues to talk about it in either projected agendas, so that Frank won't be, so that Frank can go about his own business.
We can certainly close the presentation and again say thank you, and you're good.
Yeah.
So good point.
Great point.
Thank you, Frank, for your time. You don't have to be here to listen to us and our conversations, but I just wanted to give you an option. But then, Mayor, please take it.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you coming out. You're working late tonight, and thanks for coming and presenting. I'm trying to figure out where we are and which direction up is.
Council committee reports, Mayor.
Yes, council committee reports, community reports, and conversations. Councilmember Alders.
I've got an update from the Eastside Transportation Partnership. We heard, they met Friday, July 11th. We heard a presentation from King County Metro about routes that will be changing in the fall. One of particular interest to Bothell is the Bothell-Duval Dart line that is coming up. And there was discussion around how King County Metro communicates those changes to the public. And that also spurred a conversation about how that line connects into Woodinville and how other lines connect Woodinville to Redmond. Both Woodinville and Bothell were particularly interested in that kind of interchange and how those connections would work for our community members who are trying to take public transit into Redmond. There was also a discussion that would seem relevant to, like we might recall a couple weeks ago talking about King County Metro Flex program. There was broad support for greater public education around its use and how to use it so that it's more utilized. And we also were introduced to a new liaison for King County Metro. Her name is Amanda Pleasant Brown, and she'll be working with King County cities to do rollout. So it might be great to build relationships with her there. And those are the notes that I got from that meeting. Thank you.
Councilmember Manke.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like we always miss this one because it happens just after our third meeting of the month, and then we don't come back for another 2 weeks. So it's happening tomorrow. We have a NPRSA meeting. We are going to be approving the resolution for the ballot measure for the 2025 renewal levy. We'll be appointing pro-con committee names, selecting a branding image for the levy, and then approving an agreement, ILA agreement, for 2026 onward with the city. So if anybody's interested in any of those topics, feel free to reach out to myself, Councilmember Zorns, or Councilmember Dodd, and we'll be happy to pass along the information for you to give feedback. Thank you.
Councilmember Curd.
Last week there was a PIC meeting, Public Issues Committee meeting for King County's, all the cities except for Seattle meeting, SCA. There were a couple of things of note on the agenda. One was a letter to King County Transportation District complaining about the sales tax increase proposed. There was also updates about new indigent defense case standards, but one of the interesting things that might be of note for this group is that they are planning a regional affordability summit for utilities, not including surface water rates or telecoms, but including solid waste, wastewater, electricity, natural gas, and drinking water. They're inviting a whole bunch of the regional utilities and cities in order to determine how we can be on the same page about affordability crises that are coming forward after decades and decades of deferred maintenance on utility planning in our region of Key County. So that's going to probably be in November, early November. So I will make another announcement once we have more information about the date. And if anybody else is interested in attending, you are welcome to.
Councilmember Zorns.
I'll make this really brief, and I'm doing this from memory, so that'll make it even more brief. LTAC met today, and the revenues aren't as dismal as they first appeared a couple months ago, but they're still down, but not as bad as compared to some other cities around the area. I just wanted to say that it is all hands on deck, and it has been for a couple years of people trying to figure out, from our chamber to other businesses, trying to figure out how to capitalize on the World Cup and the spin-offs from that. So just, realize that here in Bothell, we're maximizing our opportunity when it comes across our plate. And there was one other thing that Street Sense gave a presentation, and running analytics for people who love analytics, you probably would have enjoyed it. Just to say that it's getting above promised return on people clicking through, looking at things, and evidently Reels is a big thing for catching the eye now, much more than static pictures in social media. So that's the sum of my report.
All right, moving on to projected agenda discussion, where I think we might have a few things to say. Councilmember Dodd, now that Frank's not here, so we don't have to napalm him in person anymore, I felt a little bad. Councilmember Dodd.
I appreciated that everyone made a point of saying not at you, but well done, colleagues. I would like to form a subcommittee to send a letter. I think given the August recess and just the amount of time, I think it would make sense if everyone was comfortable that the subcommittee sends the letter. And I can also volunteer to be on it. But I guess I'm curious, one, do we have more than 3 volunteers, and who are they? And what else do I need to do to get this onto the agenda and all that?
Councilmember Curd.
I'm also interested, and I would agree that the timeline is pretty quick to turn something around before our next meeting. Oh, wow. So, yeah, I would volunteer too. If there's a lot of people who are interested, then I could step back too, but this is important.
This definitely feels like one for the Snohomies to lead on.
A lot of pressure on Councilmember Mankey there.
I'm happy to participate as well. I just have one question. So it's already in effect, so we can't undo likely what they've done. We do have to figure out if we're going to, I don't know what the process is. Do we just keep opposing until they decide not to make it part of our municipal growth area? Or what's the next steps, and what's the expected outcome from what we're able to do as a city going forward?
Yeah, what I would suggest is if there's the interest in the subcommittee, I think do that. And then there have been times when the council meets as a subcommittee of the 3, sometimes for recommendations for board and commission appointments. But other times in subcommittees, they are staffed. And so I would suggest that we would look for a time for you to meet virtually or in person. And we would include staff from community development to support you in some of those questions, and kind of knowing what then the frame of the letter might look like.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to sneak in and treat this conversationally and just add, in my mind, the letter is that, however we want to say this formally, we don't appreciate that our staff's guidance was ignored and not explored, that they came back to us with the same plan basically and said, hey, do you want this? But we'd already been pretty clear. And I think also talking through the lack of planning, like not having part of this area in a transportation benefit district, to me is short-sighted. I have some lived experience. The first home I owned was in unincorporated Snohomish County with a Bothell address, and the difference in the police and fire response that I received was notable. So just speaking to the fact that the more we grow in these areas that don't have a municipality, we're not setting up residents there for success. And it creates these other problems that we've talked about. So not just that we don't want it in our MUGA, but that there's a flaw in planning this way, both environmentally and in the residents' experience. So that's my thought, but obviously we have a subcommittee that we would play off of. But yeah, so it looks like we, Snohomi's got voluntold, which is totally fine. Is everybody else okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I appreciate you bringing out the comment about first responders, because that thought was going through my mind, is that now we're going to be more responsible for providing them with service. So that means probably at some point we're going to have to start adding to our costs for first responders so that they can meet the demand. And maybe to spin off, I appreciated city manager's comment of meeting with Snohomish County Council, and maybe that's a place to put that in the letter of, we would be happy to meet with you as council to council, and let them have faces to the city that they're impacting.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I would say even before meeting with the Mill Creek City Council would be talking to the Snohomish County Council and just kind of sharing a perspective that seems to have been lost in the shuffle. Or would be, and I want to make sure everybody's okay with this, but would we be okay with council members Mankey and Kurt and I sending the letter before we come back in September?
I'm trying to get a word in edgewise to be able to answer that and other questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely, I trust the three of you to put a letter together and send it. Like, the last thing we need to do is wait until September for something we're gonna look at and go, yeah, like, there's not disagreement up here among all seven of us. So I'm totally comfortable with that. Question for city manager, or maybe Director Greenspan, is it feasible to roll back the UGA expansion and the update next year? Because if it is, I would like to ask them to do that.
Yeah,
Because regardless of if we take it or not, these people are just going to be more, I mean, you heard him, more auto-centric sprawl, more people driving into town. Even if they don't live in Bothell, we're going to have all of their traffic. People are going to blame the new apartments for all of the traffic that this stuff causes. Like, this is just making all our problems worse, and I would like them to roll it back.
Well, typically each year, just like Bothell, there's one opportunity to amend a comprehensive plan. And so county council I suppose they could consider an option like that, but I would also remind you that the zoning has been put in place that reflects that UGA expansion. So even if that were to change, the zoning would be more difficult to
roll back.
So we'd probably want to have a more comprehensive conversation about that. So while it might be possible, again, those land use rights have now been extended to property owners.
But the sewer expansion hasn't happened yet, and sewer is considered an urban amenity, not a rural amenity.
So that's why I think it benefits from a more comprehensive conversation about this, and which is what I was trying to encourage a couple of years ago.
I would suggest that then we recommend that they try to roll this back in whatever way they can. Like, because this is harming us, and they're asking us to take long-term responsibility for this harm. I'm not into that. I wasn't impressed with hearing that they were looking forward to having conversations with our staff when they've ignored what you've told them in the past. Like, that didn't leave a good impression. And in terms of the joint meeting with the different councils, I don't know what we'd be trying to accomplish. Like, I'm not willing to go up there and like play, hey, do you want the bad or do we want the bad? Let's like meet in the middle somewhere with Mill Creek. Like, I don't see the point with that. I don't really feel like there's a negotiation to be had here. I would like to oppose it in the strongest terms possible for as long as possible.
A decision was made without us or taking the input of Director Greenspan. I'm trying to use your official name. I was like, so I know we're going to have a committee. We're going to send a letter. But then the answer could be, yeah, sorry, no. Then what?
That is part of the work that we can do at the staff level, and perhaps when the subcommittee meets, we can have some answers for those questions. There are, for example, certain unclaimed areas of the expanded or the existing UGA that are not claimed by any municipality. So we'd like to, for example, look into what the implications of that are, if that would be what one of the results of this would be.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question to that. If we don't take it, because you said it needs to come to Bothell because Bothell specifically, Armuga's lacking those homes in that range. If we don't take it, then do they have to go back and adjust other zoning to upzone to accommodate that then?
Again, another question that we can look into, what they refer to this as a reconciliation process that they're working through right now, and to reconcile the 821 households that can't fit based on what the county has said within our existing UGA. So we'd have to look into what the implications are for that through that whole reconciliation process, what happens to those 821 housing units.
Okay, great. I'll save my other questions too for the subcommittee. Thanks.
Conversations. I want on the record, maybe we need to have some sort of statement in our legislative manual, legislative outreach manual, to talk about accountability for county designation of UGAs and ensure that this sort of thing has a backstop at the state level. We're probably not alone in getting saddled with additional MUGA, and I want to make sure that this isn't something that can come back and harm us from political processes, from the county designating additional urban growth areas that we may have to be saddled with in the future too. So I think that this bears more conversation in the terms of the state legislative session as well.
Obviously seconding that.
Okay, so what I've heard is we do have a committee of three. We'll have Councilmember Menke, Councilmember Curd, Councilmember Dodd. I'll ask Catherine to reach out probably as early as tomorrow. She's pretty fast to start figuring out dates. We'll give staff a little bit of time to prepare too. In terms of the legislative agenda, believe it or not, we're like 3 weeks past the first kickoff meeting for the 2026 legislative agenda planning. So I will, Shelley's already working on things. I'll send her a note about that interest. And we're also working on having her come meet with council to talk about any potential adjustments to the legislative agenda and policy manual as early as September or early October. So we'll flag that for her as well and capture this note. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Next up, I would love to accept a motion to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Curd.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Curd and a second from Councilmember Dodd. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Please, nobody. City Clerk.
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Zorns?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Alders?
Yes.
Councilmember Curd?
Yes.
Councilmember Menke?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Alcapa?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right, it is 7:23. We are going to take a quick break until 7:35. Yeah. All right, welcome back to the Bothell City Council meeting.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Welcome back. Next up is ordinances and resolutions. The first order of business is the purchase of Snohomish County parcel number, I'm not going to read that, from 810 240th LLC. It's Agenda Bill 25138. City Manager.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And yes, this is our first presentation for action tonight. And as you read, I'm not going to read the parcel number either. We are joined tonight, though, by our capital projects engineer, Alex Wan, and also Jason Torrey, our capital division manager. I'll note, too, that this is Alex's first visit to council tonight. He's been with the city for a little over a year, and just as an aside, to throw him off his game, when I do meet with new employees, and Alex's story was one of the ones that stands out to me of He had experience working with the city as a consultant, and when an opportunity to join staff, he, based on what he knew reputationally of this organization, was eager to join, and that's always music to my ears. So look forward to hearing him walk us through an opportunity that presents itself to Bothell tonight.
Did you change your mind after the previous session?
At least his name's not Frank. Like,
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Alex Wan, Capital Project Engineer in the Public Works Department. Tonight, I'll be presenting to you the purchase and sale agreement with 810 240th LLC. For tonight's council action, we're looking to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of a parcel in Snohomish County. And I was also told not to say that number. So. Before I start discussing the new shop, I just want to quickly go over the existing Shop 1 site. It is located on a hillside on the south side of the city. The primary use of the shop was for vehicle and equipment storage and provided office space, restroom, and a break room for field staff. In 2021, WashDOT acquired land for the I-405/Brickyard to SR 527 improvement project. As part of the agreement, WashDOT acquired a portion of the western side of the site, and in order for them to widen I-405, the existing shop needed to be demolished. And in return, WashDOT would provide a replacement shop on site. During design of the project, we received a geotechnical report. Findings showed poor soil conditions that were prone to future landslides. To develop and build on the site, it would require significant costs. Due to these findings, we approached and received concurrence from WashDOT to look for a replacement site. Since December of 2024, we worked with a real estate broker and reviewed over 50 sites. Not only did we look within the city of Bothell, but we looked at neighboring cities within 1 mile of city limits. This included the city of Kenmore, city of Woodinville, and the city of Mill Creek. At first, we started looking at turnkey properties, which are properties with an existing shop where we can just easily move in, no demolition or construction required. Since these were not readily available in the market, we expanded our search to include listed and unlisted and developed and undeveloped sites. And of the 50 sites that we did review, only 6 were found workable. Of the 6 sites that we found, 810 240th proved to meet most of our search criteria. The site has 2 structures, an office building on the north side of the lot and also a storage structure on the south side of the lot. It also had a gravel laydown yard for exterior storage. After internal discussions, we approached WashDOT to move forward with this site, which we also received concurrence to do so, and proceed to a 45-day feasibility period. Within 45 days, we performed 4 major tasks, one being a title review, the second being a preliminary site layout to meet current codes, third being a phase 1 and 2 environmental site assessment, and fourth being the building inspection. Out of all 4, we didn't find any significant issues. Throughout the process, we've been working with WashDOT on amending our current contract with them to reimburse the city for the feasibility study and also land acquisition. And this was approved in last week's council meeting as Amendment 3. If approved tonight, the next steps, if we go through design, is to keep the office building as is and construct a new storage structure to meet what it was in the previous Shop 1 site. And once again, for council action, we're looking to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of a parcel in Snohomish County. And with that, Mayor, I'd like to turn it back over to you for any questions or comments.
Councilmember Curd.
Thank you. Welcome to council meeting, and thank you for the presentation. This is a really exciting opportunity for the city. The fact that you started your search for properties that could be as far away as like Kenmore or Mill Creek, but then happening to find a property here in Bothell and very centrally located is exceptional. And so I really applaud the team for looking into it and not giving up and settling for something that was available, but waiting till the right time and jumping on it. So this is an awesome opportunity, full support, and yeah, I don't have any questions over the presentation. I think you covered a lot. Thank you.
Councilmember Alders.
I would echo what Councilmember Kurd said. This is actually a property that has been in my neighborhood, and I've driven past it lots and lots of times and wondered, what is this mysterious office building here, and what is it used for? And so I will know that now, and I'm really. I'm actually kind of excited for city staff who get to work out of this building, because you're going to have some really great lunch options, like right back door for you. I would highly recommend the yakisoba at the Teriyaki and Pho place. Iris is good too, but I like the yakisoba. My question for you is, I can see from the schematic, the aerial view, that there's a lot of parking in the back. How many? There you go. How many vehicles for the city do you plan? Like, will you fill up the whole space? Is that adequate parking for the vehicles that you intend to be using the building?
Yes, as of right now, there's roughly 10 office spaces, which we believe there's adequate space. But in terms of vehicle storage, the only thing that we plan on having on site currently are one Vector truck and maybe one or two single axle dump trucks. So in terms of like employee parking, there's adequate space.
Yeah, I was thinking more for like the work vehicles. So great. I'm glad to hear it. And thank you so much for the presentation, for being here. Glad you're on the team.
Councilmember Dodd.
Would you like a motion?
Yeah.
I move the recommended action.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dodd and a second from Councilmember Mankey. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, City Clerk?
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Zorns?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Alders?
Yes.
Councilmember Kurd?
Yes.
Councilmember Mankey?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Alcabra?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
You get the first one for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next one,
Yeah. Do what Jason tells you. Yeah. All right, next up, we have Agenda Bill 25139, Pro-Con Committee Appointments. City Manager.
Thank you again, Council. And yes, as you're familiar, Council recently gave direction to move forward with placing a levy renewal in front of voters in November. And we are here tonight to have a discussion about the appointment of a pro-con committee. And for those who are familiar with voter pamphlets, there are statements often associated with initiatives and levies, and those come from volunteers who then also often support or oppose measures as part of the process. So with that, as you know, we've advertised. I'm going to turn things over to our city clerk, Laura Hathaway, not her first meeting, to walk you through where we're at in terms of potential candidates, but also answer any questions you may have about how to fill these roles. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Laura.
Thank you. Yes, as Kyle said, we started our advertising on June 11th through July 7th. We were advertising for Pro-Con committee volunteers. We did it on the website, obviously the Seattle Times, Facebook, Nextdoor, Newsflash, and website. We did not receive any until today at 4 o'clock, when we got a late submittal from Ryan Ellis, who has asked to write a committee or statement for the pro committee. So that's the one we received. I will tell you that if council doesn't appoint the one that we received or anybody else this evening, our options are that we would just notify King County, who then relays everything to Snow County, of our efforts to solicit for pro-con committees, and they can then in turn solicit for anybody to write pro-con committees. But that is kind of where we're at right now. And just to reiterate, we have to submit names by August 5th for it to appear on the ballot. And then the county will work with anybody we appoint as far as submissions to write their statements, so.
And the only thing I'll add before turning it back over to council for discussion is that much like anytime council is considering applications, the application this isn't like applying for a job. So the main point of the applications in this process is to know who's interested and that they're willing to commit the time to do things. So you do not have to have applied in order to be considered, and that includes if any on the dais would be interested as well. So I'll just throw that out there just to clarify again. Your applicant pool is one, and you can go beyond the applicant pool. The risk there is making sure that somebody who's selected actually has the capacity to go through the steps and process of working with the counties to provide the information. So with that, as Laura mentioned, we had one volunteer for the pro committee. I think that information is before you, and it'll be up to the council tonight to consider a motion to appoint individuals to either the pro or con committee. And then we'll take it from there in terms of if there's no one, Laura will get in contact with the county.
Councilmember Alders?
It looked like you were looking at me. I really do appreciate Ryan coming forward to volunteer for the pro committee. I'm also interested in serving on that committee to write a pro statement since council members are allowed. I had deferred, wondering, if it would be better coming from members of the community, but I'd feel better, at least being a committee of two if there's not a third, or then telling somebody in the community who we haven't discussed it with, or sending it to King County Elections. So that is me expressing my interest.
That's great. And I will just clarify too, because I was not clear, is that you have the ability to do this in your individual capacity. So there are still then the whole PDC rules of which you're fairly familiar with. But again, as residents of Bothell, you get to consider this role.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. So quick question. So if we have a pro committee and we have some people stepped up for pro, but nobody stepped up for con, can it still move forward that way and there'll be a blank page?
Yes, and the county would then reach out to their pool of folks
to get
that
the
are
cons.
eligible to serve. And if they don't get any, then they just submit a statement with the ballot measure that says there were no pro-con committee appointed.
But you can have one and not the other?
Yeah, you can absolutely.
Okay,
have
or
one,
the
not
vice
other.
versa?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Councilmember Zorns?
I would be happy to help Councilmember Alders out with this. I think that we need, 3 is a good, having done this before, 3 is a good number, and for crafting a statement together.
Yeah, and we cannot have any more than 3. You can have anybody help you write the statement, but we cannot have any more than 3 on either side.
Right.
So,
And if anybody else is interested, please make some noise.
Councilmember Dodd?
I won't be volunteering. I'm getting better
I
at
was going to
that.
say, would you like to make some noise?
No, but I'm happy to make a motion to confirm this.
Please
Sounds
do.
like we have 3. Okay, I move that we appoint Ryan Ellis, Jenny Alders, and Jean Zorns to the Pro Committee.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dodd and a second from Councilmember Mankey. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Councilmember Mankey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank my fellow council members and Ryan for signing up for this work. It's important. It's an important levy, and we really would like to see it be renewed so we can see impact in our community. And yeah, I am happy with the selection that we have put forward.
Councilmember Dodd.
Thanks. Just wanted to say thank you, Ryan. It is really appreciated that you volunteered. So, and to my colleagues as well. I know we all were like, ooh, I wonder if we'll be volunteering. So appreciate that you two did that. But yes, thanks.
City Clerk.
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Zorns,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Alders,
Yes.
Councilmember Kurd,
Yes.
Councilmember Mankey,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Carver.
Yes.
Passes 7-0, and thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you all down there for a study session. All right. Next up, we have Agenda Bill 25-140 about our draft climate action plan. City Manager.
Thank you. And Council, tonight there's a pretty meaty topic in front of you. So a little bit denser materials than sometimes too, but certainly an important topic that I think warrants it. There's been a lot of work moving forward, including with community engagement that we're here to catch everybody up on and where this plan is headed. And again, I think a lot of work that'll continue to happen during the recess. So it's important to not break this up into two parts, but to get you the full feature tonight. So appreciative of staff for taking some of the feedback from the Planning Commission and lightening this up a little bit. Yeah, you can thank planning commissioners for taking even more information on your behalf. So that's what they signed up for. I'm going to turn things over to staff, but first I'll introduce Cameron Colvin from our planning team and community development, as well as Emily Nielsen, Climate Action Fellow for Community Development. And just a quick note, I'm pointing out a lot of staffing things tonight, but Emily has been is part of the city as a fellow for a 2-year duration, and that time is coming up in August. And I was able to share with her the other day, but everything that I've heard about her work has just been exceptional, and I think all of us as people who give our time to the city, the goal is to make Bothell better, and Emily, you certainly have. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing where your next steps take you. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Cameron to kick it off.
Thank you so much. So as mentioned, we'll be providing a high-level overview of the draft climate action plan that was included in your packet tonight, providing some project updates and kind of where we're at before the recess. No actions required tonight. We're mostly just seeking initial thoughts and feedback on the draft plan. and some guidance in terms of how we can focus additional outreach over the summer and plan revisions to get this where it needs to be when we come back in the fall. So just in terms of quick project updates, we're about midway through at this point. A lot of the first half of the year was pretty front-loaded to ensure that we could meet our grant deliverable requirements through the Department of Commerce. And so now we are preparing to launch the draft plan for public comment, which we'll leave up over the summer and then come back into with the final version in the fall for consideration of adoption. So some of the slides I'll run through tonight are a little bit of rehash from our May staff briefing, so we'll move fairly quickly. The purpose of this plan, it's called out specifically in y'all's 2040 vision to develop a climate action plan and include a strategy to purchase long-term infrastructure that doesn't contribute to fossil fuel pollution. So this was accomplished through the fleet electrification study that was done earlier last year. This plan also builds upon the comprehensive plan updates that were completed last year, adding a new chapter on climate for House Bill 1181. And so the climate action plan incorporates new greenhouse gas inventory data that we worked with K4C and Cascadia Consulting to collect and drill down on a bit more detail in terms of strategies and actions to get there. As mentioned, this project was supported by a grant from the Department of Commerce. This funding not only helped support this plan, but the fleet electrification study, urban forestry work, as well as our Civic Spark fellows for the past 2 terms. And Kyle kind of stole my thunder a little bit. I got a slide on our Civic Spark fellowships, but yeah, just wanted to highlight all the great work that Emily's done with community development, as well as Krista in Public Works, who's been working with our facilities manager on energy improvement upgrades to various city facilities. So, and with that, I'll turn it over to Emily to talk about climate impacts.
Hi, everyone. So with climate change, we'll go to the next slide. Bothell is more likely to experience the following impacts. And while this plan primarily focuses on greenhouse gas mitigation, many strategies and actions in this plan overlap and also work to build resilience to climate impacts, like providing cooling during very hot days like today and tomorrow. Next slide. Another one. To review, you're all good. Survey number 1 focused on identifying gaps and opportunities for climate action and helped us craft our strategies and actions list. We continued to meet with our advisory committee throughout this time, hosted 2 workshops in May on building electrification and transportation, and are now running survey number 2, which will help us prioritize actions that are most important to the community. And that survey, as well as our survey on the urban forest management plan, which is very much related to the climate action plan, they're both out now, so please share with your networks to get the word out. They're both available on engagebothell.com. And later this month, we'll release an updated draft plan that incorporates new feedback and bring that to the public for them to review over the summer to further receive their thoughts and feedback. Next slide. Thus far, we've heard from the community that they want us to pursue measurable, cost-effective, and impactful actions that improve quality of life and help reach other community priorities like promoting ecosystem health, affordability in the city, and resilience. The most popular strategies and actions so far include supporting walkable neighborhoods, the EV charger network, preserving trees, providing clear information about existing resources, and strengthening community partnerships. Next slide. We want to highlight throughout the plan how that community feedback that has been so valuable is incorporated. We want to make it as engaging as a PDF can possibly be. So to do that, we are using pop-ups to show survey data and quotes from our surveys, highlighting actions with the most support from the community with a thumbs up icon. And once the survey is complete, we'll list the most strongly preferred co-benefits that I listed earlier with each policy so that people can skim through the plan and see what action is being taken on what's most important to them. And on the right is an example of that from Shoreline with the little icons. We've heard from the advisory committee that they want to see actions contextualized while still keeping the plan narrative concise, which is always a challenge. So we brainstormed potential iterative supplemental materials like a 2-pager summary, a greenhouse gas inventory dashboard, a story map, and a what you can do sheet that would all highlight important aspects of the plan and make connections to community action as well. Go to the next slide. Over the summer, we're seeking to garner additional community feedback. We hired an engagement consultant to increase engagement capacity and coordination across long-range projects. And the summer, as we know, provides lots of opportunities for events and tabling and meetings with community groups. So we're also exploring conducting focus groups and interviews to fill any gaps and ensure that we're identifying all opportunities to make the plan actionable for Bothell.
Okay, I'm going to quickly run through kind of the main takeaways from the greenhouse gas inventories that were completed as part of this project. So we were, as mentioned, we were able to complete these through our participation in K4C, which is a collective group of jurisdictions that are working together to advance climate goals. And the nice thing about this is we were able to collaborate with other jurisdictions and use the same consultant and methodology for consistency. And this also provided cost savings to the city of Bothell in undertaking this on our own. So as part of this project, we worked with K4C and Cascada Consulting to conduct an updated community-wide inventory for the years 2022 and 2023. The last inventory that we did with them was from 2019. And then as part of this project, we also conducted the city's first municipal inventory to measure emissions specifically associated with city operations. So a lot of good new data came out of this work. So in terms of citywide emissions, the big takeaways are transportation is a large contributor, specifically on-road passenger vehicles. Buildings and energy is our second largest sector, and a lot of that is associated with electricity and natural gas use for our buildings and various facilities and utilities. Trends that we saw now that we have new data for 2022-23 and comparing that with the results from 2019, we found that community-wide emissions decreased by 7% over that time. And you'll notice in the blue from the built environment sector that a lot of those improvements were seen on the electrical side. And so a lot of that is primarily driven by increased participation in new renewable energy credit programs like PSE's Green Power and similar SNOPUD programs. And then when we looked at the municipal inventory results, our estimates for 2023 were that city operations generated approximately 2,176 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, and that represents about 0.4% of community-wide emissions, which is a relatively small percentage, but obviously it's an area where we have direct control and can really lead by example. And so the largest sources are primarily our fleet vehicles, which we're looking to transition as part of the electrification study, employee commutes, which we're addressing through our CTR program, and then energy used to power city facilities and infrastructure as we're continually making energy improvements. Next, I'll touch on greenhouse gas reduction targets and just kind of set the stage for discussion. So the state has adopted statewide greenhouse gas reduction targets. Their goal is to reach 95% reductions or net zero emissions by 2050 from 1990 baseline levels. And to help reach this goal, they've adopted a suite of recent legislation to get us there that includes new clean fuel standards, new clean building standards, new energy codes, et cetera, that all work together to help us reach that goal. I'll dive into that in a little more detail in a second. Similarly, King County and K4C have adopted similar targets, but you'll notice that they have slightly more aggressive interim targets, 5% greater for 2030 and 2040. K4C has put together a list of shared policies and actions to help members, staff, and elected officials reach their countywide targets. And I believe I provide a link to those in the agenda bill. But this is an opportune time for council to consider signing on to those. We've been participating in K4C for the past 3 years or so, but have never formally signed on to those. But as part of the Climate Action Plan, we've tried to take those targets and implement them throughout the draft Climate Action Plan that was put before you all. And then looking at future emission projections. So this chart shows Bothell-specific emissions projected out to 2050. And the red line at the bottom shows the K4C targets. And so you'll notice that a large portion of how we get there is going to come from existing state and regional policies. At least that's what's projected. The smaller portion at the bottom of gray is essentially what we would need to address through local action or to leverage or increase GHG reductions locally. And K4C, I will mention that this chart is a little outdated. So this was a tool put together by K4C and Cascadia Consulting back in 2019, and they're currently in the process, now that we just wrapped up the 2022-23 inventories, to update this tool with the new greenhouse gas emission data for each of the local municipalities, as well as to update it to reflect some of the more recent statewide legislation that's been put into effect. And so we anticipate that we will see a potential reduction in that portion that would need to be addressed locally. But this is just to kind of give you all an idea of how we get to these targets that seem fairly ambitious, but as a collective, it may be more manageable to get there than we think. Okay, and with that, I will open it up for discussion. So we had put together two kind of initial questions to get the discussion rolling. The first being, are there strategies, actions, or topics that you feel are missing or underrepresented in the draft plan? Are there sections that should be streamlined or removed? As Emily mentioned, we're trying to make it as easily digestible and accessible as possible, even though given it's a very dense topic. And then the second question, what additional information or public feedback would be most helpful to strengthen the plan before we return in the fall?
This is a really exciting presentation. Thank you for putting it together, and yeah, for all the data. The visuals especially are really great. So to answer your first question, and I apologize if this strays into the topic of urban forestry, but reducing emissions is one thing. That's, but there's also improving environment so that, you know, we have more oxygen producers and we're better able to, you know, capture carbon and all of that. And so, and maybe the answer really is the two plans work together to accomplish just that. But that's what, you know, making that connection, I think, would be really helpful. How, you know, one plan is great at reducing, the other plan is great at increasing capacity for, you know, a cleaner environment. So that would be my feedback on number one.
I was going to save my comments till closer to the end, but I want a group hug with the council right now, because that is something that has weighed on me all weekend as I was studying this. Because the truth is that when we look at carbon emissions into the air, our impact, even just regionally, is very small at this point. Because we've made a lot of progress, our impact is very small. However, when we start looking at our trees and the myriads of things that they have to do, I guess one thing that really stood out to me is that trees are a great regulator for regulating microclimates, and anybody who's a gardener can understand and appreciate what microclimates are. Or just even walking through downtown, which is a lot of concrete and asphalt and some trees, the difference in the air where you're walking that's shaded versus when you break out into the sunshine is pretty remarkable. You don't have to see it, you can feel it. And I really would love us to focus in on our trees, not just in the right-of-way, but throughout all of Bothell, because that's going to have the impact for here in Bothell, for the people in Bothell, more than anything else that we do. And then running tandem with that is how we are treating our stormwater and how we're recharging our soil with cooling and cleaning up the environmental waters, whether it's, somebody who's washed their car or it's rained or whatever it is. Because what I am concerned about is, and maybe you asked about other data, if there's a possible, Army Corps of Engineers might have it, temperature profile of the slough right out here in Bothell. What has it been doing over the years? Because I'm concerned, we do some trade-offs, and Redmond's is really getting into the act of, cooling their water. But if you get down to Bothell and it's now warm because we haven't dealt with it, we've created a chokehold for our salmon going out or coming in, and we've defeated the purpose for everything that we've done. So I would love to see data on what the temps have been going on. I have a brother-in-law who works for the Army Corps of Engineer, and he does not have kind things to say about the slough in its water quality. So what are we doing for our piece? Wayne is a great part of it, but it's only a piece of everything that we contribute to the slough. So our tree canopy, making it effective, and how we're dealing with our storm water and getting it down to the slough where it really matters, or North Creek, where it really matters, are focuses that I really think are going to have the most impact for the people of Bothell. Thanks.
Oh, you were all waiting for me. Emily, thank you for your service these past few years. I've seen you at events. I've seen you out in the community. That is just, it's amazing that we've been able to host you as a fellow for so long, because of all the crazy things with the funding mechanisms with the federal government. But I'm so grateful for your work and for your partnership with us, and yeah, it's inspiring to see you come into a career and get to do it here. So thank you, and I can't wait to see where it takes you next. I love this climate action plan, and after being at K4C, I always it's like not embarrassing to sit in on those meetings, but it's almost like, how are we behind Mercer Island? So thank you for giving me the maybe some of the ammunition to say that we are cutting edge too. It's exciting to see this all in its almost final form. So great work, everybody, and thank you to Cascadia too. One of the things that I'm realizing is that the data that has been published that goes into this report, ideally we can use those data layers in the future and keep track of things on our own. So I'm hopeful that you have access to those data layers, and that's something that you can kind of document, and maybe it might be an internal memorandum or something that you kind of solidify how all the calculations that went into it and all the data layers and GIS stuff, so that this can be replicated in the future and it's not just information lost when we go to do it and check our work in the future. So that's a hope that I have. The question one, I am led to believe that you're mainly focusing on mitigation measures rather than adaptation. And we can only go so far with mitigation because of sectors like aviation. We can't discourage aviation in our city. And so I feel like some of the important things that we've already been taking, steps we've been taking towards walkable community, towards resilient neighborhoods that can function on their own, and go into this plan. And so we've already been working towards it. So that's something that I'm proud of, and it doesn't show up in the plan too much, but it's also concurrent work. So I'm not bothered by not stating what we're doing now, but that is maybe a gap. I recognize that our urban forest is a critical both mitigation and adaptation step, and I want to follow. It's reminding me that I need to follow up with our Public Works team about stormwater manual, because I think that is an opportunity for King County or in K4C to advance a more holistic and comprehensive look at climate change in regards to stormwater, rather than just being responsive to it, but looking at being proactive. It's fun to see 95% of the people, our neighbors, are demanding proactive response to climate change, and I think that that's probably common in King County and Snohomish County as well. So I think that stormwater management, both through recognizing the benefits that urban forests provide to stormwater, as well as maybe there are technologies and adaptation or maybe even mitigation strategies for practices in public works, like when we're pouring concrete for sidewalks. Are we thinking about how those small steps can be reflective of our values in terms of wanting to mitigate emissions, especially in buildings, which is something that we have a lot of direct control over, and buildings last a long time too. So I like the idea of encouraging infiltration of stormwater runoff. There seems to be, maybe just because it's my day job, but there's a huge collaboration between surface water and climate adaptation. So I just encourage plan review and feedback from our team here at the city, if it hasn't already been done. And the other component that I was going to bring up is escaping me, so I'll leave it there for now. Oh, K4C, if we need to, I would support being formal and official with the strategies that have been laid out and adopted by other jurisdictions. I think that it looks aggressive on paper, but like you mentioned, these partnerships that we have with the state to tackle some of our big problems together can go a long way. So looking forward to that, and I put my name in for going along with the region in terms of its idea.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone at the table, but I thought that if I went after Councilmember Curd and Alderks and Zorns, that I might not have to say a lot over. So agree with everything they said, especially using K4C's goals that we were talking about. And Emily, you've done great work at the city. I'm legitimately sad that your time is up, but I expect to see amazing things in the future. So just wanted to shout you out. Thanks.
I have more questions that have come up as I've listened to my colleagues and looked more at your data. I'm going to ask, where would you categorize, or where in, so I'm on slide 21, where would you categorize electric power or like gas-powered yard equipment in the emissions categories?
That's going to fall under the other mobile sources / transportation sector.
So like non-road equipment? Okay. I'm wondering if you had considered what type of policy solutions there might be around transitioning from gas-powered yard equipment to electric-powered yard equipment. And was there any feedback that you received from the community around interest or willingness to do that?
We've definitely heard willingness, but I don't know if we heard that specifically called out in, say, the survey responses yet. But it is a topic that's come up multiple times. That's something that we could look at and see if any other jurisdictions have looked at that. But, you know, just being conscious of, you know, private property and choices. So yeah, we can look at to see what other jurisdictions might be looking at.
There's some good model legislation out there on that, and some cities that have implemented it. The city manager knows that I bring it up from time to time. And then I'm also wondering, would it be possible to get an estimate of how much buses contribute to on-road vehicle emissions? And like other forms of public transportation, but buses generally.
I'm trying to remember if that's broken out in the data or not. So in terms of the transportation data that we receive, it's all from PSRC's regional transportation data. Or I'm wondering if maybe the transportation agencies might have that and we could maybe draw that out, but I don't have that readily available right now.
I'd be really curious, especially to find out, so on slide 22, the municipal inventory results, if buses are grouped into those transportation emissions. And it'd be really interesting, I think, for our community to see, you know, this is how much of emissions buses are contributing to, this is how much cars are contributing to. And maybe even a fun model of if public transit ridership increased by this amount, this is how much reduction of car emissions we could expect. And to kind of just see, like, you know, it's like informed consent, right? If you give people clear information, they know what they're agreeing to. And what the trade-offs can be. So I think something like that would be really nice. And then last question before I let my colleagues keep going. Would K4C be interested in hearing a presentation on this, do you think, of learning what Bothel's doing, or is this a little too soon in the process for that?
Good question. For K4C, so in all honesty, we're not the first jurisdiction to do a climate action plan. And a lot of the conversation when I go to K4C is about expressing frustration that every jurisdiction is doing this in its own isolated sphere. And if this state had, because the state put a climate element into the GMA, there was frustration at K4C that every jurisdiction is required to do this basically when it could be easily done region-wide, rather than breaking it out by which jurisdictions have money to do this and which ones don't. That starts to be an equity issue. So I don't know if they really want to review or look at it as much as just maybe incorporate it into the body of work that has come out of K4C. But yeah, I don't know. Go ahead, Councilmember Todd.
I was going to say, do you think that there's an appetite to propose a change that it becomes a more regional planning effort versus individualized? I realize we all just like did our comp plans, but they'll happen again.
Yeah, because I think it's part of the menu of options for meeting climate goals. Not every jurisdiction is going to choose to do it. They're weighing pros and cons of spending money on an action plan, but it's also something that holding jurisdictions to a regional action plan is a lot harder than if they choose to do it themselves too. And so I think that there are benefits and risks to climate planning on a regional scale when a lot of the levers of control on mitigation and adaptation are either hyperlocal about walkability and getting people out of single occupancy vehicles, or massive statewide, utility standards and that sort of thing too. So I don't necessarily know if K4C is going to be an effective shop for this, for us to come and give a presentation on it, as much as I know that there are other council members in K4C who are interested in comparing climate action plans and seeing, what the minute differences are between them. So it could be an item. I'll bring it up definitely next K4C meeting, and maybe I'll report back.
I was just going to mention also that they do hold quarterly meetings for staff as well. And so that's usually we have different topics and like case studies from other jurisdictions that present. So this is definitely something we're planning on bouncing off of them and getting input from other jurisdictions that, like you said, might be slightly ahead of us. So it's definitely a good sounding board for that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
For adopting the K4C targets, yes, that kind of seems like a minimum standard. I would rather lead than go along, but going along seems like a bare minimum, like, yes, we should do that. The last slide that showed the basically remainder of what needs to be done, can you bring that back up? I feel like the state needs to be called out here because, look at everything, the Energy Code, Clean Buildings Act, Clean Fuel Standards, combustion engine, hydrofluorocarbon. Did I say that right? Everything down there, I feel like they really deserve a call out because they are doing a ton of work and, they haven't left a ton for us. That being said, we need to do whatever we can and is in our control, but just feel like our partners at the state needed a call out in there. Also, just wanted to say, in terms of other cities being, they've already done a climate action plan. We've only been in K4C for 3 years. And, to all the staff in here and folks around the table, thanks, we did that. That's cool. Glad we're part of it. And now I want to make sure we do our part as part of it. I'm glad Councilmember Aldrich's brought up the gas-powered lawn equipment. I've heard stats per minute, a gas leaf blower emits more pollution per period of time than driving an F-150 around.
The one I've heard is for every hour of leaf blowing, you can drive to LA. Yeah.
2-cycle engines are not good. Let's just say, burning oil with the gas is probably a bad idea. And there's other benefits to going with gas-powered lawn equipment too, just because the 2-cycle ones are so noisy. So I would, if we were to look at, a gas leaf blower ban or small equipment ban, I would be very interested in that as well.
Energy transition.
Cool. Yeah. Energy transition. But seriously, we've all got that neighbor that's what time do you get up to mow your lawn on a Saturday? That person needs an electric lawnmower. Is there anything in the data that shows greenhouse gas emissions by either housing type or location?
Not really. So we have a breakout. I'm not sure if it's on. Okay, there's a little bit on the slide, but we have more detailed breakouts, I believe, in the plan itself. But it's all data that is directly from the utility providers. So they do break it up by sector, like residential, commercial, industry. But I don't know if we have that detailed of a breakdown in our existing data. I'm sure that is something we could potentially work with them to break out further. But
because just intuitively, if somebody lives in a 3,000 square foot detached house with a 1/4 acre yard that's on the edge of the city and they have to drive farther, they're going to use, I guess, for lack of a better term, a lot more energy than somebody that lives in a 1,500 square foot attached unit that lives within walking distance of a bunch of stuff. If there were a way to quantify that, I would love I would love to know like what that means. Like if we build a small apartment building instead of a bunch of detached units, like what does that do? So if that's possible when we bring it back, I would love to know that. And I'd also love, and I don't know how possible this is, but living closer versus farther to an urban center. Like if we develop here, like how much does that save in terms of developing in far-flung areas? Even if it's the same housing type. Those are my notes.
Sneaking in on the gas-powered lawn equipment, I'm trying to remember a conversation I had during session with a legislator, but I believe there was a bill about that. And I think one of the hangups was that forcing a transition means that a lot of smaller companies have to buy new equipment. So I would want us to look at the lessons learned from trying to pass that bill and just make good climate-friendly change without putting people in horrible spots. And I don't think that you guys are advocating for that. That's one thing I remember talking about.
Yes, like I would love, I'm not just saying like, let's ban them all right now. I would like to have that conversation and make good policy with you.
Totally.
Yeah, there are definitely some equity impacts that will have disparate impacts on certain populations. And I think I've heard some of those conversations or read some on that. And that's where some of the policies that I've looked at phase it in over time. And then there's incentives like, rebates and discounts and, vouchers and things to help ease that transition for people as well. And so that is obviously, those are conversations that you have at the state unless Bothell gets some really awesome grant money to help with some of that. But I think we can think creatively and look at those options. Thank you.
I seem to remember a local city, like in the last month or so, has banned gas lawn equipment. I don't remember where it might be Issaquah, but the article was talking about how there's no enforcement mechanism anyways, so it's just kind of procedural. But I think the opportunity for the city to so at K4C, one of the inspiring things that some neighboring jurisdictions are doing are participating in energy transition, but subsidizing it. And so that's something that sounds really interesting, but I don't know how to participate or like what the cost is. And so if those are opportunities, certainly from some of the surveys that have been circulating, talking about what some of the barriers are to, what is a barrier to doing solar for you or to put in an EV charging station or whatever. So if subsidy is necessary, I think I'd want to focus subsidy on where it would have the biggest impact, but that is an opportunity and an option to try and maybe even seed some culture shift around, what does a neighborhood look like when a house has a solar or some, small things like that, or heat pumps for folks who might be financially limited otherwise to do that. We have a couple of areas in Bothell that we could be strategic with subsidy and leverage equity to make sure that we aren't leaving people behind there. So that is an option. And I know Kirkland participates in the kind of regional, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's a subsidy program. So that's interesting to me whenever I hear about it.
I've got another one. Thank you, Councilmember Curd, for bringing this one to mind. The last time I went to go visit my my best friend in California, I saw that all of the parking lots have covered parking now because there's solar panels on top. And I haven't seen that pick up or take off around here. mainly because we don't get that hot but also rain. Like we get rained on and covers are nice. And this is something that I haven't seen, but would love to see if it's possible and how this might be able to put energy, like clean energy back into the electric grid, which would be covered play areas with solar power, like with solar panels on it. There are not enough covered play areas in our communities to begin with. Any parent knows this, any teacher at a school knows this. Some schools have covered play areas, they're fantastic. We could use more of them, and if we put solar panels on them, we could make them energy efficient too. So just want to throw that out there as some tools that might be available to us if we pursue them. Thanks.
Yeah, I was just gonna follow up on Councilmember Curd's comments that several of the K4C members have partnered together on kind of collective campaigns to either work with a provider, whether that be solar or heat pump installers, to provide discounts to people that participate during those campaigns. And so that's been a great way to subsidize and make it more affordable for folks to take on.
Last thing, I already closed my laptop because I wasn't going to say anything else, but Councilmember Aldrichs brought up schools, and this is something when we had our joint council meeting with the North Shore School District Board of Directors. I didn't talk about it in the meeting, but I talked with some of the staff presenters after the meeting about how on our urban heat island map, like every school is a hot spot. And it's because we only plant trees on roads where the parents drop off so that they can see that there are trees. But then when kids go and play in the playground, it's like asphalt or it's rubber that leaches into our streams, or it's sawdust and wood chips. And so there's like a balance between like kids need trees, and there are nonprofits, and there are foundations, and there are, you know, lots of private equity firms that come in and support tree planting on school grounds. And that was something that I was like interested in to, you know, we have these big hot spots on our map, and why isn't North Shore doing anything about it? But they didn't seem like it was a huge priority for them. And so maybe recognizing that school district is a partner in adaptation could be an important call out and encouragement to help them recognize their impact and their importance in partnering.
Just adding on to your thought about trees and playgrounds and school playgrounds, part of the problem I'm sure we will hear is visibility. And, you know, being whoever's watching the playground, making sure that, you know, they can see all the kids all the time. But there's no reason why you can't plant them around in perimeters so that there's at least some shade, because those kids can turn grass into just hardpan dust, in a pretty quick minute. So I like that idea. I just, you know, if you hadn't thought about it, you might get some pushback on safety. And are those little darlings going to try to scale a tree when you don't want them to scale it? But, you know, those I think would probably be the immediate pushback that we would get. So, you know, think of a counter to that.
I think some of these foundations that I've looked into that financially support tree planting have counter arguments to those. And one of the other just things that kind of struck me is, you know, we do tar asphalt on playgrounds, and that's like a very common thing. But just even the color, the darkness of the asphalt, that's 24/7, right? And so if we were to change that into a putting lighter aggregate in there, or, you know, just reducing the constant albedo effect, you know, of this sunlight hitting this asphalt and storing all this heat and then releasing it. Like kids shouldn't be subjected to that. So yeah, I'd like to see them get creative and see what they can do. And I don't know how to get to them other than providing public comment. So maybe this is another opportunity to call them out as a partner.
really, really support that. Playgrounds get so hot. Those of you who are on council for the 2023 joint meeting, like the playground at Frank Love was melting, and it had been the same one I played on as a kid, so I remember it unmelted. It's since been replaced, but like that's so weird. Like anything we can do to work with the school district would be really great. And there are times that my son's school playfield, he doesn't play on it because it's too dusty when it's really hot outside, and it's just like you can't even play on it. So super duper support that.
So I certainly hear on question 2 the theme of public feedback, but more specifically of the school district, of maybe having a sit down with them of here are the strategies that we have. And I'm scheduled to meet with the new superintendent in 2 weeks, so I'll give them a heads up too. But yeah, it'd be great if you could follow up with their team.
I had one question on page 32. There's a discussion on natural gas, and it's noted that the natural gas use has ticked up, looks like about 3%. Do we know, is that existing users of natural gas, or is that due to increased housing being built with natural gas in it?
That's a good question. So PSE is the natural gas provider for both King and Snohomish County. I don't recall if that was broken out, but that's something we could ask them about.
Okay, I was just curious. I know natural gas is kind of a hot topic when it comes to things like this. You know, there's obviously prefer electric, which is cleaner. There's also times when we have natural weather events that knock out power for days or weeks. And when you have a natural gas like fireplace for heating, it can save lives. So we're like battling against the, you know, the unclean burning, and then the ability to keep people warm in their homes, and those times happen, and to power generators for electricity as well. So I just wanted to ask about that, cognizant that it's a tough thing. I think the state tried to move on that and it didn't go so well, but maybe over time, as we find other ways to find backups, like battery backups, things like that, can replace that need, and then there won't be so much insistence on keeping natural gas around long term. So thanks for looking into that. I'd love to hear if you could find any data on that, if it's available.
I wanted to circle back on one thing before we kind of wrap up. Y'all had mentioned the overlaps with various other plans, and I think that was something that we struggled with in developing this plan, since there are so many overlaps. We're developing, the urban forestry plan in congruence. The stormwater master plan is in the process of an update. And our PROS plan is just kicking off. So there's a lot of moving pieces going on. So if you do have any specific recommendations on how you would like to see that called out, maybe within the climate action plan itself. We did have a small section talking about sequestration, and that's the role that plays in terms of reducing carbon. But we can certainly bolster that and maybe make some more direct ties, so that, if someone's just taking a peek at this document and isn't aware of all the other great stuff going on at the city, that they can kind of get a more holistic picture of what's going on.
Can I just say that it is peak city to be like, we have so many plans that it's complicating the plans. And we need a plan for all our plans.
Need a reconciliation plan.
I was gonna say, like maybe an appendix that goes on the plans that calls out how they intersect, that just gets updated as they're updated, because I'm imagining myself with like one of those like billboards with yarn connecting the different like pieces.
If only we could do a plan that was, I don't know what's the word, comprehensive.
Looks like we're getting into the joke section. Maybe it's time to go to the executive session.
As soon as you're done, I'm ready to go. All right, I think we're good. Unless we need more dad jokes, I can do that. So can Rami. Thank you. Really appreciate you guys. Aunt Dodd jokes. Dodd. We are going to adjourn, we're not going to adjourn, we're going to go to executive session to discuss litigation pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1AI. We will, it is now 8:46. We will adjourn to executive session for 15 minutes, and we will reconvene at 9:01.
And I'll say 15 minutes is maybe ambitious, but
Optimistic.
you can always extend. You can't go
Yes.
back. So it's if you could go a little longer than that, but again, just we won't resume until the time that's called.
All right, we'll go to 9:10.
Ben is starting, somebody seconds.
All right, welcome back, everybody.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, everybody. We are back from executive session, and I believe Councilmember Mankey has a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the settlement of the estate of Simmers v. Bothell et al. Up to the amount proposed in executive session on terms acceptable to the city's outside counsel in this matter, and to execute all necessary documents to effectuate the same.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Mankey and a second from Councilmember Dodd. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, City Clerk?
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Zorns?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Alders?
Yes.
Councilmember Kurd?
Yes.
Councilmember Mankey?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Alcabra?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned.